Well, hello and welcome to another week of Soap Secrets. Thanks for joining us. And today we have Victoria Wilson talking all things Holby. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Hannah.
And we also have Claire Rock to talk about the rest of the soaps. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Hannah.
Right, so let's start with Holby, because Dom is on the warpath, isn't he?
Yes. Let's start with a revisit to Keller, and there is lots going on between medics Dominic Copeland and Sasha Levy. Obviously, just to recap, we've sort of taken a break from this story largely for a while. So just to recap, we know that sort of Dom and Sasha's somewhat long-standing relationship was sort of put to the test when Sasha made a hasty decision to operate on Dom following a car accident, but it left him with a colostomy bag. Dom was very angry, and this week it does look like their friendship could well and truly be over. So following the surgery, Dom was in sort of great turmoil, wondering what life with this stoma might look like, and it was certainly not a life he wanted. So a few weeks back, he practically begged Sasha to perform like a reversal in secret. Obviously, Sasha's feeling really guilty, so he reluctantly agreed. However, then Dom suffered complications from that surgery, so Sasha was forced to fit him with a new bag, so it's sort of back to square one. Anyway, fast forward to this week, and Registrar Dom he's back at work, and it seems he's not happy with being a registrar anymore. He wants to be a consultant. So Sasha, who's his clinical lead, he's fully behind Dom's ambitions. He lets him lead complicated surgeries to prove himself and all those sorts of things. And then they're sort of scrubbing out, as it were, after an op. And Dom sort of asks Sasha afterwards if he'll help provide him a reference to help him gain this promotion that he so desperately craves. And Sasha happily obliges, and he does it straight away. And Dom's like, oh, you've done it. And he says, hopefully this will go some way to repairing our friendship. Anyway, it soon transpires that the last thing Dom wants to do is be friends, as he then slyly tells CEO Henrik Hansen all about how Sasha performed this, quote, illegal stoma reversal, and sort of somewhat suggests that it was without his consent. So he throws Sasha under a bus, basically.
Nice.
And yeah, nice. And then there's this big scene where obviously, we had junior doctors Josh and Jung actually helped in the procedure. So those two plus and Sasha and Dom are sort of hauled before Hansen to sort of explain what happened. And I think Sasha's overriding thing is, okay, look, do what you want to me, but leave these two, particularly Josh and Jung, they're young doctors. He doesn't want them drawn into it. So he decides to be the bigger man, and he sort of takes full responsibility for the illicit surgery, and there's all a big fallout there. So it does seem like Dom's got what he wants for now, or has he? Innately, he's not a horrible person.
No, but karma, I'm a great believer in it.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll see what happens there.
And Max is in denial, isn't she, about her BRCA1 diagnosis?
Yes, yeah, she's in real turmoil this week. As you say, she tested positive for the BRCA1 gene mutation. So obviously, if people aren't familiar, there's been lots of it in the news, but it's basically a gene that puts her at increased risk of developing breast cancer, and that's actually the disease that took her mother's life a few weeks back. So she's clearly burying her head in the sand over her diagnosis. She's missed an appointment with her oncologist, we discover at the beginning, to sort of discuss next steps, as it were. And her son Louis is really sort of bearing the brunt of her fears. So you could say it's perfect timing when the new locum at the hospital, Treve, turns up. And he turns out to be an old pal of Max's who, quote, knows all about breasts.
Okay.
Yeah. So they try and make it sort of a bit light, but anyway. So the actor, it is worth mentioning, he will be a familiar face to soap fans, as he played. It's Carl Collins, who played Lewis Loveday in Hollyoaks. So, and he was in The Bill previously. So he's very much a familiar face to fans. Anyway, so they usually sort of like to throw a patient into these things, and Max's reality is kind of brought into sharp focus when a patient with breast implants refuses surgery to have them removed, as she said, not wanting to sort of lose her new womanly body. So this sort of strikes a chord with Max, and she's in a real dilemma. You know, she is potentially facing very radical surgery herself. You know, that's the decision she has to make, basically. And you know, it's a question as to whether this Treve can maybe help her come to a decision. That'd be an interesting one. He's a good character, so and obviously it looks like this thing's gonna.
It's an interesting topic as well, isn't it, of discussion, because it's affecting. You know, it's sort of one of those areas that we're increasingly hearing about, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, it's just that dilemma of, you know, there are risks, so many risks attached to the surgery. But do you not have the surgery and have the very real risk of developing cancer?
It's so hard, isn't it? You don't, and you don't know what you do. It's like it's prevention better than cure sort of thing. I suppose is where you're at, isn't it?
So and it, you know, this it has been widely publicised. Obviously, we know that Michelle Heaton from the band Liberty X underwent lots of surgeries when she tested for the BRCA1 mutation. That's has been widely discussed in the press. So she's become quite a mouthpiece for it, actually, and it was a hard decision. She's talked about the you know, agonising over the decision of not to have surgery and to have surgery and the outcomes and stuff. So yeah, it's really important. It's a really hard thing to have to come to terms with.
And Kian's becoming really quite desperate, isn't he? I mean, Andre's still missing.
Yes, well, this is kind of tying all in now with you could say we're shaping up for like the four amigos between sort of Fletch, Kian, Andre, and Evie. Obviously, Evie and Andre sort of crossed paths last week when she was in Pulses preparing for her interview. Now, fast forward to this week, and Fletch finds his daughter with Andre's hoodie. Remember, he gave it to her after he threw a drink over her. He goes all defensive dad and wants to know more about this random boy she calls Mr. Madani's friend. Mr. Madani, obviously Kian to you and me, is worried about Andre, who has been missing since last week. So Fletch, he's kind of had a chat with Evie, and she's like, oh, you know, I want this boy. So Fletch approaches Kian, wanting to know more about Andre, and more specifically Andre and Evie. And Kian puts his foot in it straight away by revealing that Andre's caught up with wrong-uns. Yeah, exactly what you want to say to someone's dad. Anyway, so Fletch sort of warns Kian. He's like, I don't want to know this. And if Evie, he's basically issues him with a warning. He's like, if Evie gets mixed up in anything dodgy, we're going to be having words. So obviously now, though, that plants the seed in Kian's head that he's aware that Evie and Andre have been in touch. So he goes down to Pulses and he's kind of, you know, slyly asks Evie to basically help him find out where Andre is. We have a feeling this is not going to end well.
You don't say.
Yeah.
If I was a betting woman.
Yeah, this is gonna be going down quite a dark road. So yeah, best stay tuned. You know, when they bring family members in, that there's always something going to be afoot. So,
absolutely, and it's going to be a bit long running, isn't it?
Yeah,
but you know, you need to indulge yourself in Holby if you like the hospital dramas, because there is no Casualty this week. We've got Eurovision. Remember that thing that used to be great and people used to have Eurovision parties? Yeah, it's still a thing. And James Newman is our entry with the song Embers. So, yeah, let's hope there's not nil point for Angleterre. Right, Claire, let's move to Corrie, shall we, to the street. Obviously, last week there was the shocking kidnap of Sam. Really, really horrible to watch. What happened? Tell us.
Yes, so we saw little Sam kidnapped last week by Robbie, one of his thugs, and Nick, his devoted dad, comes racing back because Nick's been away from this street in hiding with Leanne and stepson Simon, but he comes back to the street to try and save little Sam, and as he gets into a taxi, he discovers that it's being driven by one of Harvey's thugs, and he's been given a burner phone, and the thug demands that Nick calls Leanne and Simon and demands that they retract their statements or they will never see little Sam again. It's all really quite scary, isn't it, Hannah?
It's really horrible. It's really horrid. And I presumably this goes on. I mean, like, you just,
I was quite shocked that they kidnapped Sam. So I think Sharon, Harvey's aunt, has been playing it really, really well. She still is Rita's adopted daughter, and she's come back as this baddie. And Jenny, her adopted sister, so to speak, is suspicious of Sharon. And when she gets Gary to dig into Harvey, she's shocked to discover there is a link between Sharon and Harvey. So she has discovered that Sharon is Harvey's aunt, which we, the fan and the viewers, know.
And presumably Jenny could be is going to get embroiled in this before, or could be the saviour of this, presumably.
Yes, because she wants to protect Rita, because Rita's been there for both of them, really, and then Sharon went off. But so Jenny really has a lot of respect for Rita, so she wants to protect her from Sharon's illegal dealings. And I mean, being part of a kidnap of a child is very, very serious. So I think she will act on her suspicions, and she will probably investigate a little bit further.
Yeah, and we've aside from the sort of the drug storyline, which is incredibly serious, they always usually run sort of two things parallel, don't they? And we're still seeing the storyline that I don't like very much, the Tyrone, Fizz, Alina kind of trio, if you like. And I think this week you really see the difference between, so there's Tyrone and Fizz, what was a family unit with their girls, and then of course Alina's come along, carefree, really turned his head enough for him to leave Fizz for her. And you see the absolute difference in the two worlds, because the two children need new shoes and Alina wants new designer coffee cups. It couldn't be more desperate, could it? So
No.
I wonder whether we're starting to see, I mean, it's not going to be that quick, but we're starting to see where he'll go, because we talked about lust and love, didn't we? And how much was he really in love with her? And I wonder whether this is going to be sustainable in the long term once that kind of initial attraction has kind of ebbed away a bit, maybe.
Yes, I think you're really right there. So Fizz has two little girls. They need new shoes. Kids' feet grow really quickly. Alina, she's setting up home with her man. She wants nice designer coffee cups. She wants the flat to look nice. Now, Tyrone, he's got money going one way, he's got money going another way. He's put into a financial squeeze. When you're running two households, you've got to have money to be able to do that. And he has to get a second job this week to help out on the finances, and that's
to buy a designer coffee cups, of course. Yes. Why wouldn't you?
Yes, I know, they are so important in a relationship, aren't they?
Really are. I feel that's the make or break of ours marriage, really.
Yes. What your coffee cups look like. So this is going to put a strain on his relationship with Alina, because not only is he going to be working at the garage, but now he's going to be doing another job. So the young lovers, or the lovers, won't be having as much time together, and he'll be tired, won't he? He'll be working two jobs,
and then he'll be cranky. Oh, it's a recipe for disaster. Shame.
Yes.
Is Fizz waiting in the wings with her arms wide open?
Yes, I think she possibly is, and she has Evelyn on her side, and Evelyn is a very plain speaker, and she does give Tyrone a piece of her mind on the whole thing. And
Tyrone will take that sort of, he's that kind of guy, isn't he? In the show, you can see that he. I don't know. I have a Mick and Linda vibes about this. It's going to all be okay.
I do find it a little odd, because one of the things that Tyrone always wanted was a family. He grew up and he didn't have a stable upbringing until he went to live with Jack and Vera when they were still alive. And for him, love and family and kids were the heart of what he wanted, and he's thrown it all away for a young lover.
I know, it really doesn't feel right, which is why I think I've always felt that it's almost like he's just fallen off the track for a bit, and he needs to get back on it. I and especially with the children involved, it feels like he's really let them down. Of course, they've taken Fizz's side, I always remember my children saying to me when they were quite young, if you and Daddy break up, whoever you go off with, I'm staying with the other one. Well, that's not on the cards, but children have quite a view about these things, don't they?
Well, they've seen it at school because very sadly some of their peers at school have been through this upsetting and distressing episode in their lives. So and they talk about things, and so
you're right. So all going on in Coronation Street, but it's a banger, isn't it? In Hollyoaks, even put my teeth back in. Summer and Sienna give in to passion.
I know. I'm sorry. That just
I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming.
I'm so glad you didn't either, because I read that and I went, what?
Yeah. But in a way, it adds up. In a way, it's clever. I don't know why we didn't expect it in many ways. Because you sometimes, when you're playing games, and the jealousy and everything is for a reason, right?
Yes. Well, they've been playing games, and it's all a bit incestuous, really, because Sienna was dating Brody, then Brody left Sienna and started dating Summer, and now Summer and Sienna give in to passion. So it's all sort of musical chairs, isn't it? Shall we say?
It is.
So we know that Summer has been playing games with Sienna, but Sienna has been liking the attention, hasn't she, Hannah? So
exactly.
Definitely. And when Brody gets a job offer in Manchester and wants Summer to go with him for a fresh start, what will Summer do? And when she gets Sienna alone at the school dance studio, one thing leads to another and they succumb to temptation.
But Brody's there.
Yes, he's at the school looking for Summer, and will he discover the pair?
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, again, if I was a betting woman, I'd say yes.
Really, I'd love to be there if he does discover them. I'd really love to, because what's he going to say? I mean, it's going to be shocking. His ex and his current are having a passionate moment.
I know, that's really awkward. Oh, wow.
That's more than awkward.
Well, yes. And we're also getting close to Diane's due date, aren't we now? So, and that's all, it's a tricky one.
We really need to keep an eye on that one. Yes. So she's pregnant and she's very close to a due date. And Diane and Tony are buying baby things, obviously, because they want to welcome the new baby. And Verity helps out with the pram, which is kind of what an aunt thing does. People always buy one big thing. And Diane refuses to touch the credit card because of the germs. And we know that Diane is really struggling with OCD, and Tony hasn't really picked up on it, and he's not really dealing with it. But when she refuses to touch the credit card, has Verity guessed just how ill Diane is?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people during COVID have been really... I mean, I remember at the beginning, I was kind of a bit unsure. People wearing gloves. I see less people wearing gloves now. In a way, is it indicative of whether you're ill or whether you're just a bit frightened? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, at the moment? And I see less and less people wearing gloves at the supermarket now. Or let's talk about Emmerdale, shall we? Kim, is there any end in sight with regards to this mystery person drugging her?
Not at the moment, certainly not this week. And she's still being drugged. Someone is still putting her drugs into her brandy, and we know Kim likes the brandy. So she's, and she's got a lot now. She's ingested quite a bit. This isn't just one glass of brandy and... and she perhaps knocked it over and she got a fresh one. That more drugs have been being put in this brandy, so now she is woozy and paranoid, and she's frightened. So because she's drugged. I mean, can you imagine when you can't? It's like moving through a fog. You're not quite sure what's going on, and you're really worried. And this is her, and this is very unlike Kim, isn't it, Hannah? Very unlike Kim.
Very, very much.
And
so.
So she thinks somebody is out to get her, and she hears an intruder, and she reaches for her shotgun, because obviously this is in the country and they will have shotguns, and bang, who has she shot?
No, not another murder inquiry at the Takes.
It could be anybody, so there's she's got quite a lot of enemies.
Literally explosive.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if she's got the person who's been drugging her. You just almost certainly know that it's not, don't you?
Yes.
God. And Bernice is back. The
I
lovely
know.
Bernice.
I know. We're
I'm very
so happy.
pleased about that.
We haven't seen Bernice for, like almost 18 months, Hannah. She was engaged to Liam before she left the village, and she left to go to Australia to look after her ex-husband who had been in a bad car crash. But she did leave her daughter behind. And so now she's come back and
It's all changed.
It's all changed, yeah. Liam is engaged to Layla. She's gone, what? And daughter Gabby is pregnant with Jamie Tate's baby. I'm sure she's going to have quite a lot to say on that.
Yeah, I think she's going to be thrilled about that,
Yes.
isn't she?
Yes.
But, Bernice is...
She's lovely.
She's a great character.
She is.
Yeah,
she's very bubbly. I think that's what they need. She's a bit kooky.
Original Emmerdale.
Yes.
What reminds me of being younger and being at home and watching her.
Yeah.
That's, how many years she's been in it, isn't it, really?
And Samantha Giles is just gorgeous. She looks lovely. She's always turned out really well, and because she's a beautician, her nails are done and her hair looks lovely.
Yeah,
and
I agree. And we've also brilliantly got an exclusive interview, haven't we, with Sam Giles,
Yeah.
who plays Bernice. The short version is here, and there is a longer standalone special available if you wish to listen.
And here is What's on TV's soaps editor, Sarah Waterfall, chatting to Samantha Giles.
Hi Sam, I'm Sarah. Welcome to Soap Secrets. Feel to be back.
Well, it's funny, I was saying before, it feels like time has just frozen, in this sort of 18 months when I've been away. So it's really nice to see everyone. It's a bit weird with all the COVID restrictions, but it's lovely to revisit and revisit Bernice.
Have you missed playing Bonkers Bernice?
No, not really. No, I haven't missed it. I've more kind of, I was ready to definitely, have a break from it before. I think I've missed the people more than anything else, but actually now I'm back playing her, it's like putting on a pair of old shoes, and it's quite comfortable, comforting, I suppose, as well. And it's nice to see what she's up to again.
So when she appears in the village, does anyone know she's coming?
That's a good question. No, I don't think they do, actually. I think she just... obviously, she knows that what's going down, with Gabby and everything. And I think the sort of thing that prompts her to make that decision to come back is partly Gabby's pregnancy and what she's been hearing from Diane. But I think also the fact that this relationship that she's been rekindling with her ex in Australia, that all sort of goes to pot. And I think that's probably the final straw. And she thinks, no, I'm going to go back to Emmerdale, and see what's going on there.
Okay. So can you just remind us, she went out to Australia to go and look after Charlie, didn't she, who was Dee Dee's dad?
That's right. It's her ex-husband, Dee Dee, her younger daughter's father, and he was involved in a massive car accident, and needed, round-the-clock care, really. So she went really to support her younger daughter and to do what she could to look after the ex-husband. So she's obviously developed some kind of relationship with him, rekindled their romantic relationship while she's in Australia. But then he's also apparently been having it off with his nurse.
He's as bad as Bernice.
I think so, yeah. They probably deserved each other. But so she had enough. So she's obviously said that's enough.
So when she left, she was about to get married to Liam, deeply in love, and she left him kind of high and dry, really. And he took quite a while to move on, but he's now very firmly moved on. How is Bernice going to feel to find him engaged to Layla?
Well, I think she does sort of know. She's heard about it or read about it on social media, so she is sort of prepared. But I think she's not happy, and I think she's just not accepted. She can't believe that he could have moved on from her, and that I think she thinks as soon as he sees her that those feelings are going to come flooding back for him. She's not really thought it through, because I think it's just a typical Bernice. She's like a monkey. She can't let go of the branches. The branches are like partners. She has to hold on to one before she goes on to the next one. And with this having dissolved in Australia, I think she honestly thinks that Liam's she's just gonna be able to fall back into his arms. And obviously that's, not going to happen.
So, last but very much not least, Phil and Kat move in together in the square. What?
Yes, I know.
Shock.
I know. Last week you and I talked about how we thought Sharon really belonged with Phil, but that doesn't look to be happening anytime soon, because Sharon is getting it on with Kirat, and this week. Yes, Phil and Kat move in together. So I couldn't say this at the time. When we had Ben and Callum's wedding, there was an awful lot going on at the wedding. They did get married, the lovely Ben and Callum. And the wedding party, which consisted of Ben and Callum and Phil and Kat, they're leaving the register office. And Whitney wouldn't attend the wedding because she blamed the Mitchells for the death of Cush. And Whitney she did something just shocking, really. She hasn't been stable since really Cush's death, and she gets into a car and she drove it at speed at the Mitchell wedding party, which is really quite a dangerous thing to do. She missed the boys, she missed Ben, Callum and Phil, and she hit Kat. And it was really quite shocking because Kat bounced off the bonnet, so she hit her quite hard, and she went into hospital. She was badly enough hurt to be in hospital for about a week. And this week she's out. Now Kat's very kind and said she can't remember anything about the attack and hasn't dropped Whitney in it, but who knows where that storyline's going to go. But this week, yes, Phil picks up Kat to bring her home, and you know what chaos the Slater house is always in. There's always something going on, and Jean's all over Twitter and Mo's all over whatever is doing something really dodgy, because we all know Mo. And so he says, come and stay with me. And she and her boys, Tommy, Bert and Ernie, so he's not just taking Kat, he's taking three.
He's got form for this, Phil, hasn't he?
Yeah. So they all move into the Mitchells, and as the song goes, is it love you're after or just a good time? I think maybe it's love if he's taking on her three boys.
I know, but it just doesn't feel like it's such a volatile match. I mean, they've really met the match, and you kind of, I don't know, most relationships, you don't tend to find two incredibly headstrong people, do you? Unless, rarely. You tend to find, people that kind of
complement each other.
She's a bit yin to their yang, that's kind of how it works. I'm not sure that is sustainable long term, because it's just too feisty.
Yes, and I'm sure they'll have some humdingers, some massive humdinger rows, because Kat doesn't stand for any nonsense and Phil doesn't stand for any nonsense. So, but I mean, he's got these three boys now. I think he's going to be taking them into the Mitchell clan and sort of, he's just expanded the Mitchell clan.
He does though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And the Slaters and the Mitchells are sort of, it kind of works, I suppose, to a degree. But I just can't see the two of them standing the test of time. But Phil does, as we say, have form. But whilst there's maybe love in the air, the Mitchells and versus the Slaters, we don't have so much at Ruby and Martin's house, do we? Because their marriage is really struggling. And, of course, Martin's children are living with them.
Yes.
And it's just a number of issues. Do we think it's going to survive?
There's massive amounts of issues. Lily hates Ruby for what she did to her mother Stacey, hates her with a passion. And I always remember she did something. Lily hates Ruby so much that, when she first moved in, she got Ruby's mum's wedding dress and cut it up. And that was just such a horrible thing to do. But that's how much hate Lily has for her, well, I suppose her stepmother. And Yes, so she's just making a lot of problems and is making life incredibly difficult for Ruby and Martin. Will they be able to survive this? Is it over? I mean, they had lots of problems anyway because, Ruby lied about pregnancy and then she lost the baby and she pushed Stacey down the stairs and then lied about it. So there's an awful lot to come out in this storyline.
Wow, we didn't need Casualty this week, did we? Because there's too much going on anyway, too much screen time. Thank you, Claire. That's absolutely brilliant. We will be back next week. Enjoy the soaps this week, obviously, and we will see you next week.